Most of us have been to a big box pet store like PetSmart or Pet Supplies Plus before, but nothing beats a good old-fashioned family-owned business. This is Big Sal's Feeder Farm and Reptile Supply, your one-stop shop for all your reptile needs, located in Brookfield, Ohio. One of the greatest things about a family-owned business is that you get to have direct contact with the owners, unlike a big box store. This is Jim, owner of Big Sal's, and he has agreed to do something most owners and CEOs don't ever do: a one-on-one personal interview sharing details about his business and his personal life. Sit back and have a cup of coffee with us, and please be sure to subscribe.
You gotta do a speed up thing where me and you keep raising our hands.
Welcome to Big Sal's Feeder Farm's YouTube channel. My name is Jimmy. I just want to do a little video on why I breed feeders, why I do what I do. Main concern for me is saving money for my own reptiles. I always say reptiles are my hobby, feeders are my business.
So the questions for Big Sal's here: what was the main inspiration for starting Big Sal's?
The main inspiration? Well, I bought a snake and I wanted to feed it live, right? Because I thought snakes live in the wild, they eat live rats. I didn't think it was natural to do frozen thawed. Problem is, pet stores don't sell live anymore.
Right.
So I ended up buying a few feeder mice on Craigslist and then started breeding my own. And then I actually had leftovers, so I put them on Craigslist. And the first person that showed up said he had over 200 snakes and he would buy everything I produced live. So I said, I can turn this into something.
Got lucky with that one.
Yeah, I ended up borrowing $35 off my mom to buy 7 more breeder rats, and it just snowballed from there.
And that was the beginning of Big Sal's. That's what started the whole thing.
Yep.
Now, were you working another job when you started Big Sal's? Or
No.
That was all you were doing, was just straight into it.
I had back surgery when I was 25. Instead of helping me, it hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually made my back worse, and for the next almost 2 years I was probably a good 70-80% bedridden. Like I couldn't stand too long, couldn't walk too much, so I was basically just a stay-at-home dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then Amber bought me a snake for my birthday, because you gotta forgive me, I do jump around a lot, but
no, you're good.
I bought, when me and Jimmy's mom were together, well, we split up. It was a very on again, off again thing for a short bit, but at one point we were not together. I bought 2 snakes from the flea market. They were both in the same tank, 2 normal ball pythons, and we got back together within like a week, and she was deathly afraid of them, and I had to put them in the basement. When they were down in the basement, I ended up separating them into different tanks, but one of the tanks had a slice on the top screen. So I put duct tape over the slice, and I put duct tape under the slice, hoping the duct tape would stick to itself and be safe. Well, matter of fact, I was working. At this time I was working, but I had to get up for work at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I go downstairs to check on the snakes, and one of the snakes caught that duct tape, got it loose, and it was wrapped around his face so much, like the snake couldn't breathe, and he was just flailing around in the tank. And I actually had to wake up my ex-wife, and she had to help. Mind you, she's definitely afraid of him, and she had to hold the snake while I took a scalpel, like a razor blade, and sliced the tape and peeled it off the snake's head.
Yeah.
And the fact that I almost killed him because he was in the basement, I wasn't able to watch him as much, I ended up giving them away to my cousin. So I only had them for a week or 2. And when me and Amber got together, I told her that story and said how I've always liked snakes. I just wasn't able to have them before.
Right.
Besides being a kid and catching wild ones, those 2 ball pythons were the only captive snakes I've had. So it bummed me out I didn't have a snake, so she bought me one for my birthday. But it was a children's python, right? So the ones I had were ball pythons. They were thicker. I liked bigger snakes, and she got me one just thinking of the word python, not ball python.
Right.
And I'm like, it's cool, but it's not really what I wanted. And then the very next day, we went back to the pet store. They had ball pythons like 50% off for normals. So we paid, I think it was like 35 bucks. And so I got a ball python. So as soon as I got a snake back, I got 2 over 2 days. Mm-hmm. And then at this point, I wasn't working. Just stayed home dad with Jimmy. And I was researching it, the snake, which I didn't do before. I never researched it. I just did what the guy I bought them from told me to do, which is why, which is why they were still in the same tank, and I didn't know. And when I was researching it, I found something called ballpython.net, and it's a forum. It's just nothing but people talking about ball pythons. Okay. If there's husbandry issues, your snake had a bad shed, people are asking questions, people are answering the questions, and I'm like, I never really. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of communications here, and I never knew that there was a hobby surrounding snakes. Mm-hmm. I thought people just had a pet snake, and I didn't know. And the more I'm looking it up, it was like, I think it was in 2010. It was like I think it was a $5 billion a year industry just at being in snakes. And I'm like, huh, that sounds interesting.
Light bulb came on at that point.
You know what I mean? So it was then, and over the course of the next couple months, when I'm buying rats and mice on Craigslist, and then I'm breeding my own to feed my snakes, which is when I met the guy that said he had 200 snakes. And I said, you know what, I think I want to turn this into something and just slow process, you know?
Yep. Now, there's probably a lot of people that come through this door that have never been here before. As soon as they walk in, they want to know who Sal is. They don't know that Jim is the owner. They think there's some Sal somewhere else in the building here. Tell us where the name Big Sal's Feeder Farm came from.
So, I personally, I've always hated my name, right? When I was in school, when I was a kid, I've never liked my name, but my sister-in-law, well, let me back up a bit. One of the people I bought rats from Craigslist, she was telling me that she used to have a Savannah monitor. And I'm like, what's a Savannah monitor? And she's like, it's a big lizard. They get 4 or 5 feet. They're super docile. You can walk them down the street on a leash and people pet them and this. So I started researching them and I'm like, that's pretty cool. I want one. And me and Amber's sister actually go and we go halfers on one on Craigslist for 40 bucks. So we each spent $20. We bought a Savannah monitor. During the next couple days is when I was really wanting to go from breeding rats for myself to selling them and trying to create a business with them. So I got the Savannah monitor and we named him Sal because he's a Salvador monitor. So he was Big Sal, even though he was just, a little guy. But then I come up with the name Big Sal's Feeder Farm and Bait Shop because we were also breeding bait, red wigglers, night crawlers. I had compost buckets or bins in my basement, and I was breeding bait as well. So Big Sal's Feeder Farm and Bait Shop, it just had a ring to it. I liked it, so I bought the website. I bought business cards, this, that, and the other. And unfortunately, before the business cards even arrived, Sal passed away. So I don't think he ate a single bug. I mean, I only had him like a week, 10 days, something like that. Problem is, I already paid for a year for the website, all these business cards coming in, and it's like, I can't really change the name now. However, about it, probably less than a year into it, we dropped the bait because you need a special permit to sell bait and fishing stuff. Okay. Maybe not fishing stuff, but the bait itself, you have to have a permit from the ODNR or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with any more crap than I have to with legal stuff. So it was just Big Sal's Feeder Farm. And then I don't think not until we come to Brookfield did we add the and reptile supply to it because it's more than just feeders.
Oh yeah, a lot more than just feeders. What was the most stressful time running Big Sal's? What was the most stressful thing that you encountered with it?
The most stressful?
The most stressful.
Huh. I don't know if I can answer that. I think each week, each month, each year might get more stressful than before because there's so much more to deal with now. You know, back like at the beginning of this. Now there are certain times, like I told you, when I first bought my first rats and my first snakes, I wasn't working, but Amber was. Mm-hmm. So she was working in a daycare, and I stayed home. And I bred the rats, and eventually I started breeding the rat racks and breed them in there in my garage in Struthers. But I started working side jobs to get more money to buy more rats and more roaches and stuff like that. And I actually was driving for Amazon, and I was driving 6 or 7 nights a week for Amazon. So I would go to sleep at 5 or 6 p.m., and then I would wake up between 9 and 10 p.m. I would drive to Pittsburgh to pick up my truck. I would drive to, I drove to North Lima to pick up my truck from my boss. It was my cousin. He was like the leader of the crew. But I'd pick up my truck in North Lima, then I would drive to Pittsburgh to pick up my load, and then I would drive to Maryland and Pennsylvania to drop off at the post office. And then by the time I made it home, it was usually 10 or 11 a.m., sometimes noon or 1 if traffic was bad or if there was like construction or an accident. So when I got back, I would go turn the lights on in the garage, I would feed the rats, clean them, and help customers. So back then, I'd say we're open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. as long as you text first. But when I was driving, most of the time the lights stayed off in the garage until I made it home. So I would be working all night long, come home, and then I would be cleaning cages for the next 5 hours. Clean cages, feed them, water them, help whichever customers needed help, and then go back to sleep at 5, and then, you know what I mean, rinse and repeat. So that was very stressful because on paper, I thought within 2 years, I was going to be selling $250,000 a year worth of roaches and rats. And just on paper, just what I figured out was like, I can scale this. So I put everything I could into it because that's what the numbers showed. You know, I was going on numbers and averages and stuff like that. So I just tried snowballing it there, and we didn't have a lot of money, right? So like I said, I borrowed $35 off my mom just to buy those first 7 breeder rats. Certain things helped us, like when you get our tax returns back, we might get like $4,000 because we had Jimmy. I would take 3 of that and buy stuff for the business. I would buy more roaches, more rats, or materials to build rat racks. And I would use that, and you know, $1,000 of that might get Amber a newer car, something more drivable than the one she was before, and the rest just went to the business. So when I was driving for Amazon, I was basically doing 2 full-time jobs where I was on the road all night, and then I would work all day, and I'd only sleep 3 or 4 hours before driving again. So that was very stressful, especially having a kid. I mean, at the time, Jimmy was only maybe 4 to 5 years old, and Amber still worked full-time. And I remember one time I was actually complaining about all the work I had to do, and Amber's like, well, you chose this. This is, you know what I mean? And I was just so whooped and overwhelmed. And she's like, well, you chose to do this, so you can't be mad at no one but yourself. And I'm like, you got a point there. You know what I mean? And
it's hard to see it at the time.
Yeah. And I just kept going through with it. And that was a lot. You know what I mean? Because I had to handle everything. And that's a lot to do. There's a lot to this that people don't see. You know, I tell people that come to the store, what you see here is only like 10% of what actually gets done. Most everything that gets done for Big Sal's happens behind the scenes. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to it that just doesn't get seen. You know?
Are there any big future plans that you have for Big Sal's? And what would be the next big plan or the next big step for
you? Well, I always have a lot of ideas. As far as the next or the biggest, I can't really say. Just that I want to focus more on quality versus quantity in the near future. We finally went from a garage to a shed to an actual retail store. Now I want to do better at the retail store. I'd like to get the parking lot fixed. I'd like to have the carpet replaced or taken out. I would like to get rid of all the old gondolas we started with, replace them with new.
It's a lot of just upgrades of the current situation.
I really just want to upgrade, sell better products, different products, and just do better with what we have here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What would you be doing if you didn't have Big Sal's?
That's tough. So I tell Jimmy all the time, I don't have favorites. Like he'll ask, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? And I'm like, I like everything. You know what I mean? There's very little I don't like. Same with people. I mean, people definitely can drive me nuts sometimes, but I don't hate anybody. You know what I mean? I can get along with anybody. I've gotten along with a lot of sketchy people. I could go and, I could sit and have dinner with like a millionaire and have a good conversation. I can go and sit and have dinner with a and have a good conversation. Like I could fit in any, you know what I mean?
Right.
And the way my mind is always turning, like I'm always coming up with new ideas for different things. Like you've seen me where I was buying a lot of silver. I wanted to turn a little business into that.
Yep.
We bought the change counter to almost like a Coinstar, just like side hustles.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, there's so much I want to do in my life that I just haven't, or I don't have time to do. So I guess it depends on why isn't the business here
Right.
and what my options are at the time. Because I mean, it might be something as simple as hopping back in a truck and driving for a while. It might be starting another business. It might be, flipping houses. That's something I'd love to do, is own houses and rent them out. Not so much flipping houses, but I'd like to buy a house, fix it up and rent it.
Yeah.
And then buy another house, fix it up, rent. Because it's good to have extra incomes.
Yep.
Problem is, it costs a lot of money to buy a house. I don't have a lot of money and I don't have a lot of credit. So you just got to one step at a time to get there, you know? Which is something that is still on my bucket list to do one day, is to buy houses to rent out. It's just a long process to get to that.
Yeah. Now, with all the stress that you've put into this, all the blood, sweat, and tears, the hopes and dreams, the plans, with all of that in place, what keeps you motivated to keep Big Sal's up and running?
My kids. I didn't have, I didn't grow up like dirt poor, more, middle class, but the world's changing, and a friend of mine, his father gave me advice when I was like 10. He told me, find a job in a factory that I could work at for 30 years with a good salary, good benefits, and leave with a retirement. That was like his life goal. When he told me that, I was like, that's a terrible idea, because I don't want to just stick to one thing. Like I used to bounce around from job to job, go for something better paying, something I preferred to do over something I didn't like to do. But I can do, and I like to do so many different things. But the kids, those jobs, those factory jobs, I don't think are going to exist very long. You know what I mean? Even welding, to be a welder, I used to work in a machine shop, and the welders are telling me, between the robotics and now the AI, like those good welding jobs, a lot of them are going away. So you could have made 35, 40 bucks an hour. Now they're making 12 an hour because all they're doing is hitting buttons, and it's being done by a machine, a robot, a computer. So those jobs don't exist anymore. I mean, my own mom, she worked for a company for 25 plus years, and that company sold itself numerous times, and she always kept her job. And then one day she gets laid off without no warning, nothing. Wow. And they gave her a severance that was just, it was laughable. I mean, it was, and she can't say nothing. There was no recourse there. And you know what I mean? It's like after 25 years, you walk away with like less than $1,000 or even 1,000. Like your whole life, that's all it boils down to.
Right.
And that's terrible. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that I could leave this for my kids, that they'll eventually, want to scale and want to keep around because it gives them job security.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And hopefully one day more than job security. I'm hoping it makes them good money, or at least enough money that when they're 18, once they're an adult, they can have better choices, better options, because they're not just trying to survive.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And they'd be coming into a business that's already established. It's
Yeah.
already set. You've already done a lot of the hard work.
Yeah.
At that point, it's just maintaining it to keep it going.
Yep. So I'm really hoping one of them does take it over. You know, I hope.
That would be nice.
Jimmy
Keep
used
the
to
family
love 'em.
business going.
Jimmy used to love the snakes a lot, and he kind of lost interest in it. And I think for him, I think it's the work that made him lose interest. You know what I mean? Because same for me, when I bought that first snake and when I had 2 snakes, I'm like, snakes are so easy to care for. You feed them once a week, you clean up their poop maybe once, maybe twice a week, keep them fresh water. It's so easy.
Yeah.
But then when you have a dozen and a couple dozen,
Oh yeah.
that it's easy, but now it's duplicated numerous times,
Yep.
and it's a lot more work. And eventually, like, you have a passion. You know, like, everyone who starts in this hobby has this passion for the snakes and for breeding them, and they love the animal. And eventually, like, when they start to breed them and they start selling the babies, eventually the passion kind of goes away. And it's just more chores on a daily basis. You're doing the same thing repeatedly.
Yep.
And it's like, I did it because I loved it. Now I'm doing it because I have to, and I don't love it no more.
Right.
So I think some of that happened to Jimmy as well. It happened to me a couple times where the passion was away from me because so much stress of the business
Happens to
and
everybody.
work, it goes away. You know, so I've kind of had to reset myself a few times. Like, I can't get too sidetracked. Like with the coins, I was buying a lot of coins and stuff, and I realized I'm struggling keeping the business afloat because my attention's somewhere else. So I had to reset myself. Like, hey, this is what's paying the bills. This is where your attention needs to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I had to get back to that. You know.